Yesterday, the voice of hockey in Toledo, Matt Melzak, joined us in studio to put a bow on an unforgettable Toledo Walleye season. Tonight, we continue that conversation, not looking back, but looking forward in our way too early guess as to what we may see on the ice next season in a Walleye sweater. Instead of basking in what we had and what an amazing run it was, okay, well, what do we do next year? But we know the rules with the ECHL, the veterans, you can only sign so many of those. And so I'm thinking here, let's just get right to it. Guys like AJ Jenks, Shane Birchbeck, been around for 5 years. More than likely, probably won't be back next year.
You're looking for an answer from me, and you wouldn't be doing your job if you weren't asking that. But at this point, I have no clue on that. And I think you look at the roster as a whole, and you're going to go, okay, well, who could be back, who might be back, who's not coming back. It's hard to really judge that from year in, year out. Sounds like Kevin Tansey has a deal overseas, so you could probably scratch him off more than likely. Until all that stuff is finalized, you never say never to anything. And that's one thing I've learned in this business in my years, and I'm sure you have as many years, if not more, covering sports. And
I'm old, Matt.
There's some times where you're like, oh, that sounds like it's going to go through, and then it doesn't. So, who would have thought Craig Kimbrell and Dallas Keuchel wouldn't have signed until now? So there you go. There's a little baseball throw in there for you.
So you're easing your way back.
Things can happen. So many things can change. But you look at, I think, guys that certainly earned a right to be back if the coaching staff wants. Tyler Spezia, I think, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like a no-brainer. Zach Gallant will be an interesting piece. What do the Red Wings do with him? They're going to have to sign him, do something there. Could he be a guy that we see starting the year with us? I think he proved that he should be at least given a look.
Oh, no question.
By Detroit with his good run. And then you just don't know. After that, guys are going to have opportunities, and some of those guys are going to take a hard look at going over to Europe. And, maybe even a guy like Shane Birchbeck may take a look at, maybe I can get a year over in Europe, make some really good money before I call it quits on my career. So there's so many things that can still happen. I think it's tough to really gauge and say, okay, yes, this is how it's going to look. Yeah,
and to be clear, for what I learned, talking with Kyle Rogers and talking with Evan Rankin while you were out in, Canada, we talked a little bit about that, and there is a lot more money to be made overseas playing hockey than there is here in the ECHL. That's just a plain fact, and especially if you're getting up there maybe a little bit in your career and you're like, hey, I'd like to make one more crack at it and make as much money as I can before I'm done. You can't blame them.
You look at Kevin Tansey is a great example. He's now played a year in Kansas City, a couple years in Toledo now. He's had an AHL deal twice. He had an ECHL deal this year. Gets an opportunity, got up into the American League for a while this year out west with Stockton. So he's been kind of on that bubble a little bit. And that's the kind of guy that's perfect to go overseas because he can get into a good league over there. You can make some really good money for a year, maybe a couple of years, and then either you come back as, more of a veteran type player at that point and continue to play, or you stay, like the Cody Lamples of the world that have stayed over there, continue to do well in that league. Adam Keefe did it for a long time as well, playing over in England. He played a number of years there before becoming a coach now. So you hit that point. Ryan Obakowski is another great example of a guy that's now a couple of years in, is primed to go over and really get into a league that you can make some really good money. And there's even younger guys. Tyler Spezia might be looked at with his speed and his skill, ability. He fits in very well with how they play the game over in Europe. So there's so many of those that it's like the roster here, the roster there. That's what I was trying to say by that building from year to year. I think fan base wise, you can build a lot of momentum, and Toledo's certainly done that. There's no question. You look at 42 sellouts, count the All-Star game last year. They built a lot of momentum. That's continued. The player-wise on the ice, you never know until you start again in October.
Right, and it doesn't matter. The great thing about playing hockey here is it doesn't matter what the name is on the back. It's all about the logo on the front, and the fans will show out no matter whom is playing.
No question. And those crowds that we saw in the Kelly Cup final,
my gosh.
It was insane.
Deafening, as you mentioned.
It was awesome. It was great to see. And the thing that I loved the most was that Newfoundland had a lot of their staff in Toledo, and they saw how it all went in Toledo, and you could see that a little bit of that effect in Game 6, what they were trying to do to get their fans excited. They had a great crowd in Game 1, but they watch the game,
Right.
you know, and then, after a play happens, they get excited. They were kind of trying to be more involved in the game as well, like we saw here at Toledo. So it was a fun series for that fact.